All right, good morning. Today we are holding a live hurricane exercise to kick off the 2023 hurricane season. This exercise is an annual exercise that we've been doing since 2004, just before the catastrophic 3 hurricanes that hit our area. Today, over 600 injects will come here to the Emergency Operations Center to be processed by staff. The Emergency Operations Center exercise encompasses partners from multiple agencies, including the Seminole County Sheriff's Office, power agencies such as Duke Energy, our 7 cities, the Department of Health, and others. Internally, we have representatives from multiple county departments such as Public Works, the Fire Department, Resource Management, Economic Development, Environmental Services, Animal Services, and Community Assistance. This is the second of 5 hurricane exercises that we will be putting on this year to prepare for the upcoming hurricane season. Those exercises including the one we held yesterday, a shelter exercise where we opened up an emergency evacuation shelter, damage assessment, where individuals will actually go out into the field and do damage assessment just like they really would, with pictures of damaged homes, bringing that information back here. A volunteer reception center exercise, and then an unmet needs exercise linking volunteer response teams with unmet needs in the community. And then of course the exercise today here in the EOC. You can hear the multiple phone calls coming in from the simulation cell, which is outside of this area, calls coming in with real life situations for these individuals to handle. We truly believe this is very important, planning, training, and exercise, because we know that it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, and we need to be prepared for the worst. While hurricane season does officially start tomorrow, us here in emergency management, we have been preparing since the last hurricane. Those lessons learned have been acted on over the last 6-7 months. And we've also been in recovery mode, helping individuals that are still in temporary houses, still in hotels, and they'll be going into the hurricane season under the gun. We know that those individuals will need special care. Some of our more notable improvements since the last hurricane season is the acquisition of an oxygen generator, where we'll be able to produce our own oxygen for oxygen tanks for our special needs clients and most vulnerable clients. We are one of only 2 counties in the state of Florida to have this asset, the other one being Alachua County. So we're very happy about that. In addition, we purchased additional special needs equipment in our shelters. We now have telemedicine in all of our shelters, all again trying to make it a very safe haven for individuals trying to evacuate from the storm. Just as we are preparing here, we would encourage every resident to also prepare. The ways you can prepare are getting a plan. You can develop a family disaster plan, getting a kit together, a kit that will have non-perishable foods and those needed supplies during hurricanes, and then signing up for alerts through our alerting system, Alert Seminole. For more information on preparedness and planning, we encourage everyone to go to our preparedness website, prepareseminole.org. And on additional hurricane preparedness from the first response community, I'd like to ask Chief Kenley from the Fire Chief of Seminole County Fire Department to talk about some preparedness measures in the first response community.
Thank you, Alan, and good morning. Your Seminole County Fire Department is ready to serve as always, but as our Office of Emergency Management stressed, everyone's preparedness is the key. So what can you do to prepare? As Alan Harris mentioned, have a planned hurricane preparedness kit and evacuation options, along with any kind of a first aid kit. From a public safety standpoint, if you are advised to leave your home, especially for those in mobile homes, please do so. By not doing so, puts not only yourself at risk, but the responders that are going to come to save you at risk. Also, if you have a generator, make sure you learn how that generator works prior to the storm happening. Carbon monoxide poisoning continues to be one of the leading causes of death during these hurricanes. It is very, very dangerous. Be aware that needs to be placed 20 feet from your home. Make sure that it is placed in an area that the fumes aren't venting into any of your open spaces, doors, windows, or any kind of any other ventilation. Please call 911 to report any kind of gas smells, natural gas, propane, odors, gasoline, any kind of smells like that. Call the fire department. We can come out and make sure that there's not a hazard. Don't use outdoor cooking equipment inside like grills and flat tops. Please and please learn hands-only CPR. That saves lives not only during events like hurricanes, but also every day. Due to the historic flooding of our last hurricane season, we're upgrading our high water rescue capabilities. We have 2 old 6x6 military vehicles that were built back in 1968 that we use for high water rescues. We are upgrading that. Our Board of County Commissioners recently approved a little over $500,000 of ARPA funds to purchase 2 new high water vehicles to replace those old ones. The money came from ARPA, the American Rescue Plan Act, which comes from federal funds. The new vehicles will be able to go up to 50 inches of water and have 6-wheel off-road driving capabilities. They also carry 650 gallons of water. We can fight fires with them and transport up to 28 people. Also features a lift gate on the back. That's one thing that we learned in the past hurricanes, that we're coming out to citizens in wheelchairs, and it's very difficult getting people up into these high water vehicles. This one will have a lift gate on the back to help get those up. We anticipate that these will arrive sometime in the midsummer. All of these are just some basic tips from the fire department. Please go to prepareseminole.org to get any more information. A lot of detailed information there. We appreciate your partnership. We appreciate the partnership with emergency management and law enforcement. And on that, I'd now like to turn it over to Sheriff Dennis Lima.
Thank you, Chief Kenley, and thank you all for being here. It's always great to have a news conference when we're preparing for a storm and not actually in a storm. And I want to commend Alan Harris and his team. If you have an emergency situation, you want Alan and the folks, a part of Seminole County Emergency Management, out there doing their job. And you can see he's really ramped up with the education and awareness over the past week or so. From the sheriff's office perspective, we stand ready. We have a lot of experience with this as Floridians, and I think that the overwhelming message right now today is to prepare. You never want to kind of prepare during a time of crisis, and if you can make those plans now, it's always better. Part of those things that need to be taken into consideration is the structure of your building, your structure of your home. Whether you live in a low-lying, flood-prone area, and I'll remind everyone here in Seminole County, you not only have the flooding and the damage from the initial storm, but for the following 10 to 14 days after that, you have flooding that comes up the St. Johns River as the St. Johns River flows north. We see that in the Lake Harney area, the St. Johns River area, and those areas that are flood-prone. Specifically, if you're a business owner, you got to kind of think about what your plans are. If you're looking to purchase generators and become familiar with them, now's the time, instead of actually purchasing it when they're in high demand and it's incredibly difficult to grab one up. The Sheriff's Office always reminds people about the collaboration, the partnership with our business, with our citizens, and the other police municipalities throughout Seminole County, all of our city agencies. And you'll hear branding and messaging on a variety of topics. First, shelters. When shelters open up, know that there's a dedicated law enforcement officer, either a deputy sheriff or police officer, that is staffing 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at the shelters, and you and your family will be incredibly safe there. The deputies and police officers that are at those locations are not only there to provide safety and security, but if there's things that you want to know about on the outside, your home areas, we'll be able to answer those questions. When it comes to areas that are prone to evacuation, the manufactured home communities, those that are limited structure when it comes to high winds and storms, we have anti-crime units that are actually out there patrolling those areas. What does that mean? That when you leave your prized possession, your home, your valuables, we want to make sure that we're increasing the presence of law enforcement activity within those areas. So typically you'll see a lot of unmarked vehicles, or you may not see them, but they'll be unmarked. There'll be plainclothes deputy sheriffs in those areas, in addition to the uniformed marked patrol vehicles that are in those communities. We also are prepared to respond to calls for service, and we do that in partnership with the fire department. Of course, we have high wind vehicles that are capable of getting out there and sustaining those elements, as well as getting into the flood-prone areas. These are our, high-level military type of vehicles, many of which we obtain on military surplus, but we have those vehicles that are prepared for the aftermath, whether it's supplies or helping with evacuations and getting people out, in addition to responding to high wind calls for service. But of course, when those situations come, the safety of our first responders is so incredibly important. We will evaluate that on a case-by-case basis and communicate specific details on that when the storm actually approaches. Another thing that is a major concern for the Sheriff's Office is to understand the unintended hazards that come in with the storm, particularly on our roadways, right? We encourage people to always, if there's ever a traffic signal that's out, treat that traffic signal as a four-way stop. Don't drive through the water that has been gathered on the roadway. If you drive through that water, a lot of times it can be flooded out or even washed out, and we've seen vehicles actually drive through what they thought was a puddle and actually go completely into the ground. And then lastly, as we talk about preparation, is there's a lot of time where the ground gets soft and a lot of damage and some injuries have occurred from trees and other things falling. When that ground gets loose, the storm may look like it has passed, but then the roots of those trees get loose and they'll drop down. We also see some injuries when people who are not experienced with chainsaws get out there. So now's the time to prepare, run that generator, become familiar with the chainsaw, know what your plan is. If you have family members, relatives, if you have that hotel destination that you want to go to, or you're going to relocate to one of our shelters, make the plan now, talk to your family members and friends. And again, all of the folks that are here are working hard, even in this assignment, but they prepare year-round, and particularly Captain Mark Pergola, who runs our Special Operations section here at the Sheriff's Office, works with his team to make sure that our equipment is up, that our new members are prepared that have never been through a crisis and a storm like this. But we will be here every step of the way to further communicate our actions and our activities, and it's great to have a partnership with Alan Harris and Chief Kenley and all of the cities in Seminole County to come together and do good things. So now I'll turn it back over to Alan Harris.
Thank you, Sheriff Lima. Any questions?
Is there anything done to kind of mitigate the flooding that happens on like Lake Harney and places like that?
Yeah, so there has been some stormwater improvements in the Mullet Lake area, which is right next to Lake Harney. For Lake Harney itself, that's the St. Johns River, so there's not a lot of mitigation that can be done there. There are a few seawalls there that the water breached the seawalls, but there's not a whole lot that can be done there. We are looking at some mitigation projects related to homes. Those aren't fast projects, unfortunately. So the FEMA applications are just going in right now for those projects. They look favorable, but in some of those cases, those are severe repetitive lost property. And in some cases, those may be an elevation project where the home will be elevated, and in some cases they are buyouts. So these homes were built before LIDAR and GIS and things like that, so they sit too low. In current standards, we wouldn't even have built them the way they're built. So since the homes have repetitively lost over and over and over again, we're looking at buying those out, returning those to the floodplain, which is where they should have been, and then helping those individuals move to a different location. It helps our insurance, like everybody's insurance, obviously moving them out of this area instead of them making a claim year after year after year after year. Of course, that jacks all of our rates up.
Has there been any buyouts yet, or any?
We have done some buyouts, actually. So we've done some buyouts in Longwood along the Little Wekiva River, and we've done some elevations in the Mullet Lake area through FEMA grants as well. Yeah.
What are the key lessons that we can take away from it?
So the key, I would say, number one is every hurricane is different, and we heard this a lot. I went through Hurricane Irma. Hurricane Ian and Hurricane Irma, vastly different storms. Hurricane Charlie, strong wind event. Hurricane Francis in 2004, very slow moving storm, 3 days to get past us. So every single hurricane is different. Little wobbles matter. That's another thing that we learned, that just a little bit of an adjustment in the forecast can mean the difference between a direct hit or a slight miss. And in Charlie, of course, back in 2004, that little move, and during Irma in 2019, that little move were to our detriment. So we got worse storm, worse wind, worse damage because of that little bit of movement. So those are the lessons learned: is don't judge this year's storms by any of the previous storms. Focus on this storm that's approaching, whatever that storm is this year, and then what the hazards are for this particular storm. And we're going to talk about it a lot. During Hurricane Ian, we talked a lot about this is going to be a rain event. This is going to be a flooding event. We had no idea it was going to be 26 inches of rain in the central part of Seminole County, but we knew it was going to be a rain event, just not a 500-year flood event.
We've been talking to the public a lot about preparing for hurricane season. Can you just talk about the importance on this side for you guys to run through the scenarios?
Sure. So we believe it's incredibly important not just to preach planning and preparedness, but to do it. That's why we have 5 exercises this year. I think that's the most we've done before. We do a lot of exercising here, but 5 in the next 3 weeks is a lot to put on. But that's important for us. We want to prepare for this upcoming season. We want to prepare the community. We want to prepare our staff. Plus, we've had a lot of changeover. People have moved, people have retired, things like that. So it's good for everybody to refresh their memory. We have some people in here looking around, some people that have been here for 30 plus years, and then I see quite a few. This is the first time they've been in this EOC is today, so except for training. So we have a lot of brand new people, and ironically some of them are sitting right next to 30 plus year employees. So hopefully some of them I see are retiring. I see one that's about to retire in the next month. Hopefully that knowledge is moving on to that person sitting next to him.
And the goal is to run through what-if scenarios.
Yeah, so today over 600 injects. The injects are real-life incidents, real-life activities that we've had to do, from generators breaking down to people showing up at shelters with specific needs. But these are real-life things that have happened over the years, whether they've been here or we've seen after-action items from other places. Like we saw some stuff in Fort Myers during Hurricane Ian. Didn't happen here, but we want to learn from those lessons that they've learned. So some of those are in here in our injects as well.
Chief, as far as the high water vehicles, are you going to keep the 2 old ones in service too and use them?
No, the 2 old ones need to go away. They work great for their time, but with the historic water floodings that we had last time, it's just they're not meeting the mustard. So we were able to get these new Acela vehicles, which are military-style vehicles, much higher water capabilities, along with the capacity is more than double.
So if it's not emerging, would you guys position those on the lakes?
Yeah, so as we always do, we take those 2 vehicles and we move one out to Geneva, and then we move one out into the Altamont area, because even though Altamont's a city, there's some very significant areas there on the Little Wekiva that flood. Those are the 2 areas where we stage those vehicles at.
If that's all the questions, then we'll have Spanish language.
Yep. We're going to do the Spanish interpretation. Thank you. So I'm going to ask Bob Cortez to come up and do the Spanish interpretation. For those that are not doing that, please be respectful of that. So thank you. Thank you.
Buenos días. Para el beneficio de nuestros oyentes de habla hispana, estamos haciendo una conferencia de prensa en español. Hoy estamos haciendo un ejercicio de un huracán para el comienzo de la temporada de huracanes del 2023, la cual comienza mañana. En este ejercicio, en el centro de emergencias, contiene todas las agencias aquí, como el Departamento de Salud, el Departamento del Alguacil del Condado de Seminole, los bomberos, los servicios de luz y agua y servicios comunitarios, además las 7 ciudades, todos están compareciendo aquí en este ejercicio, que la cual es la segunda de 5 ejercicios que van a tener este año en las próximas 3 semanas. La primera se hizo ayer y las demás, la segunda hoy, y van a haber 3 ejercicios más de emergencia. Y los ejercicios se están haciendo para preparar a los voluntarios que están aquí cómo prepararse para un huracán. Y la palabra perfecta es preparación de huracán. Como lo están haciendo aquí en esta oficina, le están exhortando a todos que se preparen por lo que viene un huracán, por si acaso viene, cómo van a estar listos. Aunque la temporada de huracán comienza mañana, nosotros en manejo de emergencia hemos estado preparando desde el año pasado. Una de las mejoras es la compra de un generador de oxígeno para llenar nuestros propios tanques de oxígeno. También de los comentarios del jefe de los bomberos, el departamento de bomberos del condado de Seminole está listo para servirle, pero están exhortando que preparación es la clave. ¿Y cómo puedes prepararte? Primero tienes que tener un plan de evacuación y también tener un kit para huracanes, lo cual contiene agua, contiene medicina, contiene vacuna, tiene todas las cosas que necesitas por si acaso, comida en lata, todo lo demás. Y tenemos una lista en nuestra página de web de un kit, cómo pueden prepararse. También te están exhortando, si te piden evacuar de una zona, por favor háganlo. Si no lo haces, estás poniendo en peligro a tu familia, estás poniendo a ti en peligro, también a los bomberos y a los ayudantes que van a ir a buscarte. Te están exhortando, si van a donde te dicen, mira, te vamos a pedir que evacúes de tu hogar, que lo hagan. También están pidiendo que si estás usando generadores en la casa, primero asegúrate de cómo usarlo, que sea una forma segura, nunca eches gasolina a un generador que está prendido, nunca uses generador dentro de la casa. También asegúrate que esté fuera, lejos de las ventanas y las puertas, que no estén, que el humo pueda entrar a la casa y el monóxido de carbono también. También le exhortamos que llame al 911 si huele a gas, algo que es un gas que esté liqueando de alguno de los tanques. Entonces, desde el año pasado el Departamento de Bomberos está adquiriendo unos equipos especiales, unos camiones estilo militar 6x6 para rescate con fondos del condado de ARPA. Estos camiones pueden ir hasta 50 pulgadas de agua de alto, pueden cargar 650 galones de agua y esperan que lleguen en varios meses. También estamos preparando, como diciendo que si necesitan alguna otra información pueden ir a la página de web del condado, que es prepareseminole.org. También el alguacil del condado de Seminole, el sheriff Dennis Lima, también le está exhortando prepararse. Pero también otras cosas que pueden hacer si se encuentra en un sitio de huracán. Si el huracán está aquí y no hay luz, y está en la carretera, lo cual no debe estar, pero está en la carretera y no hay luz, debe tratar cada intersección como una intersección de pares. Deténse, mira a los cuatro lados y pueden seguir. También le estaba exhortando de aquellos que están haciendo fechorías malas, que van a tener oficiales afuera buscando y van a estar protegiendo las propiedades de las personas y van a arrestar a aquellos que están haciendo mal. También están exhortando que se preparen. La clave y la palabra del día hoy es prepararse. Tan y cual todos están estos voluntarios aquí haciendo preparaciones, le están exhortando a todos ustedes de que no es cuando venga un huracán, es de que el huracán va a venir, cómo va a venir. Todos son diferentes, lo cual vimos con el huracán Ian, Nicole y Charlie, son siempre huracanes diferentes. Prepárense ustedes en su hogar para cuando venga estén preparados. La oficina del alguacil del condado de Seminole también está preparándose con el capitán Mark Pegola, que está preparando nuestro equipo en el condado desde junio del año pasado. No tan solo hemos aprendido lo que hemos hecho aquí, pero lo que hemos ido, porque hemos ido a los sitios como donde fue Ian, enviamos nuestro equipo allá a ayudar y aprendimos mucho de allá. También, si necesitan ir a un albergue, tendremos los albergues abiertos. Cuando llegue el momento, prepararemos una lista de dónde pueden ir y cuáles son los que tienen servicios médicos, pueden aceptar animales y todo lo demás. Entonces, lo primero es, si cae un huracán, no salga. Eso es lo que le está exhortando el alguacil del condado de Seminole. No salga de su hogar. Pueden haber árboles, pueden haber cables tendidos, muchos peligros en la carretera, mejor quédese en su casa. Y finalmente, para completar, la palabra del día nuevamente es prepararnos. Prepárense, necesitan más información, puede visitar la página prepareseminole.org. Y cualquier pregunta se las puedo contestar. Muchas gracias. Siga. No te oigo. Sí, bueno, esa es una buena pregunta. Muchas personas, por eso la soltamos, que si le piden evacuar, que lo hagan. Si las personas no quieren salir de su casa, desafortunadamente es la decisión de ella. Y entonces acuérdense que muchos de nuestros oficiales no pueden salir si los vientos huracanados se exceden 39 millas por hora. Eso puede ser que usted se encuentre en una posición de peligro y llame al 911 y no va a poder recibir la ayuda de inmediato porque no pueden salir por las condiciones del huracán. Van a salir tan pronto el huracán termine, pero mientras, por eso es la exhortación de que si le piden evacuarse es porque tenemos experiencia de que lo hagan. ¿Cuántos refugios? No sé, how many shelters do we have in Seminole for the? Siete refugios para la temporada tenemos. And is the list on? For this section, yeah. Okay. Para esta, 10? Ok, hay 17 total. Lo que estamos haciendo para este ejercicio ahora mismo son 7. Sí. Y tendremos la lista completa en la página de preparesemino.org. ¿Listo? Muchas gracias. Okay.